Welcome to Veteran State of Mind. I'm Geraint Jones, and we have a very special guest for you today. A magical guest, you might say. Before we get to him, I want to say a big thank you to the Royal British Legion for making today's episode possible. As I've been telling you guys, we have something in the works with the Legion to bring you guys experts involved with the Armed Forces Compensation Scheme, because I know a lot of us have been banging our heads against the wall trying to get compensation for injuries and stuff that you're owed. And I know, like, a lot of the attitude towards it is like, oh, I don't want to be taking money away from the blokes and stuff. But as we will show you, there is no taking money away from the blokes. That money is there. You're rightfully owed it if you've had an injury. At the end of the day, I think a lot of us we're not asking for special treatment or anything like that. But at the end of the day, if you are owed something, then, you know, they should pay it back. That's as simple as that, really. And it just sounds so stupid when you say it, but that's the truth. Compensation isn't them giving you something that you're not owed. It's literally them just fulfilling their obligation to give you what you're owed. So don't think of it as you're getting something buckshy, because you're not. You're getting the bare minimum of what you're owed. So yeah, we got that coming. So thank you for the Legion for that. And they just make the podcast possible. Full stop, guys. You know, these deep, rich sounds that are coming into your ears right now. It's coming from a professional studio. Royal British Legion make that possible. Check them out at Royal British Legion and also at rbl.org.uk. As I always say, better to go on there now, have a look what they do for veterans and their families before you need them. Because of, you know, usually when you are in shit state, that's not the time when you want to be looking for help. And usually, let's be honest, when you are in shit state, you're not in the state of mind to be able to go and find the help, are you? Because you're usually just doing the bare minimum to survive, or getting drunk. A lot of that happens when you're in shit state. All right, today's guest. This is a very, very interesting character and someone that I'm very glad to be able to bring onto the podcast. He was a Royal Marines Commando. He was also in the army before that, which I didn't know, actually. He actually went to the Iraq with the army, but we'll come into that. Went to Afghanistan with the Royal Marines. Just a super interesting guy who's very he's done a lot of work on himself. He does a lot of inward looking, work and reflection, and is making himself a better person on the back of that, which I'm really into that kind of stuff. It gets me off. So I'm really glad to have him on the podcast today. Some of you will know him as Steel. Some of you will know him as the Magic Marine. Please give a very warm welcome to Mr. James Stott. Welcome to the podcast, mate. Good to have you on here.
Hello, mate. Good to hear you.
It's been a year since I seen you. We came to Veteran State of Mind Live, so thank you for that. And last time I seen you, I think you were planning a motorcycle trip to India. I'm guessing that's got boshed by 2020, is it?
Yeah, we were literally just about to fly out as well. We'd left the northeast, and the only thing that held us up was we got held up by a week because we were waiting to talk to some sponsors. And then once we'd got that in the bag, it was the weekend before the lockdown. We drove down to the south and we were going to fly out to India. And then first visas were suspended, so we couldn't get to India. And then the lockdown was sort of creeping in, and we started kind of scrabbling around to pick an alternative route. We looked at Morocco, we looked at Europe, then we looked at the UK. And it was just, there was no avoiding it. The lockdown just came and closed everything down. So everything's got pushed to the right.
You might have dodged a bullet by not going to India as well, mate, because they were like, they had people, did you see it? If the police caught people breaking lockdown, they had them doing like knees to chest and stuff, like calisthenics in the streets. Did you see that?
Mate, it could have been horrendous.
That would be funny though. We made some good footage, mate. What was that whole expedition again?
So, it kind of, the original seed was planted when I was talking with my little brother, and we were looking at ourselves, and essentially we were a little bit lost and looking for purpose. And we thought, what if we take everything away and just hold on to the things that we enjoy doing, which would be the adventuring and the motorbikes. For me, obviously the magic, and my brother's a history academic and he loves talking about the kind of tales of the past. So we thought, if we used those elements, what could we put together? And it sort of turned into like a motorbike adventure. And the original plan was to fly out to India, get some Royal Enfields and ride them back to the UK, but do it over 6 months and live on the bikes do magic to the people that we meet along the way. And my brother would retell the stories of the past, the old Silk Road, talk about Genghis Khan. And also we wanted to get like the local myths and legends from the small communities that we would pass through. And then it was, well, if we're going to do this big old trip, why don't we film it? And then if we're going to film it, why don't we try and do it well and see if we can kind of carve a new career for ourselves where we can, you know, make a living out of what we enjoy doing.
I think it's an awesome idea, mate. And you're one of the people that have put that kind of idea in my head as well. I was actually just thinking about it today. Because I want to go out to do some walking in Bosnia. Walking, you know, like they've got incredible mountain ranges out there. Because my Roman books are set in that area, and I thought, well, why don't I just film it and make a little documentary out of it? You know, and you were one of the people that kind of gave me that idea. So thank you for that. I've totally nicked that.
Mate, I think you'd have to crack a Hannibal and take an elephant, though, wouldn't you?
Well, I can find plenty of them in Wrexham, mate. That's no drama. But no, I think it's a great idea, though, mate. But it's about making not even necessarily. It's no one's saying like you're trying to be the next Steve Jobs off the back of it, but just being able to do what you do and you love as a living is just such an incredible thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think essentially it was purpose through adventure. That's what we kind of knuckled it down to.
I like that. I'm writing that down, mate. That's going to be the title of the podcast, Purpose Through Adventure. So let's go back to purpose then from your childhood, mate. Like what was the purpose? Actually, let's get to the bottom of your name as well while we're here. Is Steele a given name? Where's Steele from? No,
so Steele's a nickname from the Marines. One of the lads ended up calling me Steele. And at the time, I thought, this is cool. I kept it. I changed my name on Facebook, and this was years ago. And then when the magic side of things started to progress, I remember talking to one of my friends, and I said, I want to have a magic name, you know, like Dynamo does. And he said, well, Steele's already established. That's what the lads call you. That's what you've got on social media. Just roll with that. And it was I don't know, it sort of fit for the time, but I think now I've kind of shed it a little bit and back to James.
Well, for people that don't know what you look like, you do look like a Steele. You are an essence human being, mate. Let's be honest about it. So, like, it's great though, because I always say, because we've had on this podcast a couple of the great names. We've had a few great names now, mate. I think we've had Jack Carr on, the SEAL who's an author. I mean, Jack Carr's a great name for an American who writes about who are adventurers and stuff. And then we've had Logan Stark on as well. I think that's an absolute power name, as he said. So we've had some cracking names on the podcast, mate. I think you're the best British name we've had on so far. You know, old Steel Stott is a cracker, mate. But it's
it beats Dean Stott, doesn't it?
Don't tell us how he'll be coming to visit us in the night. But mate, it's cool as like. One of the things that you were saying there about like you changing your name as you go through your life, that's something that we don't really think that we do in the military. It happens in the military for everyone. We don't pay that much attention to. But, you know, there's people that you serve with in the military who might have been your best mate through war and you don't know their real name. It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah. You end up hearing their sort of Christian name being shouted out by someone and you're like, that's your name? Totally doesn't fit.
And I don't know what it's like in the Marines, mate, but in the Royal Welsh, because there's so many like Joneses and Williams and stuff, quite often you just know people off the last two digits of your army number.
Yeah.
So you're literally like this guy that you've gone through all these experiences with. You just know him as like 4'2" or something. It's mad. So let's go back to childhood then, mate. Whereabouts did you grow up, and what kind of childhood did you have?
So I was born in York, which was the Viking capital of England back in the day. And moved around the northeast. So I stayed in York till I was about 8 years old, then moved up to Northumbria, and then out to the northeast coast, just inland a little bit from Scarborough. And I kind of class that as where I grew up. And we lived out in the countryside. There was some woods behind the house, and I had a little motorbike that I'd go adventuring. I had a very outdoorsy sort of adventure childhood. Loved it, going and exploring. And I think it was inevitable that I was going to go into the military. When I look back at photos, yeah, it was inevitable that I was going to go down that route.
Did you get pushed into being in the outdoors, or, and I don't mean that as in like thrown out the house, but was that something, was it encouraged, or was that just something that was in your nature?
um, I guess a bit of both. Definitely, my parents wanted to get us out and keep us active, and we go out cycling or running and climbing. So it was, yeah, they were keen for us to be active. We weren't allowed to watch the TV or anything like that. Never had a sort of games console. So yeah, we were encouraged to get out of the house, but I loved it as well.
Going back to the Viking thing, mate, have you ever done like an ancestry or a DNA test or something?
Well, this is where the name from so we call the trip the Motor Vikings. We looked at the name Stott, and we were all born in York, which was the old Viking capital, and we thought, that's pretty cool. Then we traced our sort of history back, and it had remained there in York for a few centuries. So we started thinking, maybe we've got a bit of Viking blood in us. And then yeah, I think it turns out that Stott's actually a Viking word. So we just fully embraced it. And then yeah, with sort of the motorbiking, we're like, we'll just call ourselves Motor Vikings. And it
Because you look like a Viking. You're a tall lad. You got the blondie kind of browny beard and everything. You have a good Viking look about you, mate. So I mean, it's not exactly a stretch of the imagination, is it? Maybe that's why you like being outside so much, mate. You got the
yeah,
DNA.
thank you.
So do you think, like, specific to being outside, was it that you also wanted to be in the army? So was it, because I mean, there's a lot of people that being outside, but sorry, I said army there. I know you were bootneck, but let's be honest, same thing. But like, there's a lot of people that being outside, but then it's like it's a smaller group of people that actually then want to go around shooting people in the face, isn't it? So when was it that you kind of like moved towards the military side of things?
I was thinking about this. Obviously, this year's been a big year for reflection time, and I was thinking, why choose the military? And I think what it probably comes from is, as a kid, I was this skinny, insecure, shy, unconfident little kid, and I was born in the '80s, and we kind of grew up on Rockies and Rambo, and I think that was, I wanted to be this big, strong guy, and I thought, when I looked at it, the epitome of that is a soldier, like a war fighter. And I thought and I reckon that's probably the underlying sort of motive for going into the military.
I think it's definitely this. You definitely come across. It seems to be one of the things we have quite common, because obviously, I get asked this question a lot of people now, and it seems to be people that get bullied, or people who hate bullies, not necessarily got bullied themselves, or people that hate bullies, people that feel like they have something to prove, or people that come from a bad home. Those seem to be like the three kind of like common things. Is that would you say that that's fair to say from like what you experienced?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're too comfortable, then there's no reason to grow. And I think that's why you've got to, especially now when we sort of get a little bit more successful, we have to keep the comfort zone small, because yeah, if you get too comfortable, there's going to be no reason for you to push into anything else. My older brother sort of puts it. I got into weights and fitness quite early on as well, and my older brother kind of he takes the credit for that after filling me in for so many years. So I think, yeah, I think there must be some truth in that. If I got bullied at school when I was a kid, and like I said, I was just a skinny, unconfident, wishing I was Van Damme, and I think that sort of gave me the drive.
Was picking up a set of weights one of the best things that you did in your life?
I've never thought of that. I mean, I'm still picking them up now, and I love lifting weights, and it's got a lot of benefits to it. Yeah,
it's just one of those things. It's become ingrained in your life, so you don't really think about it, isn't it? But like, could you imagine? Well, let me ask you this: could you imagine your life without it?
No, I think I'll always lift. I am kind of switching more to like the body weight stuff. I want to be able to do planche press ups. That's the drive
Which
for
one's
that
that?
one.
What's a planche press up, mate? Is that like a tuck planche and
Where your feet aren't on
your
the
feet
floor.
aren't on the floor? So it's like the tuck planche and you extend your legs and do a press up.
Yeah, they look pretty sick.
That sounds pretty Ali. Can you do muscle ups and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I can do muscle ups, but I can't do planche press ups.
Right, well, there you go. It's good to have goals, mate. Like you said, and there's no you got to be uncomfortable or grow and all that kind of stuff. But I think the weights thing, like, look, it's no like doesn't cure everything. If you've got insecurities and stuff, then there's usually some deep underlying causes that you need to work on, and not having bigger biceps won't make up for everything. But certainly in my own life, I feel like when I picked up weights, that was turning a big corner in my life, and I think that it's the same for a lot of people. And it can be like very hard. We had a guy on the other day. I'm not sure which order we're going to release these in, but Ryan Mickler from the Order of Man podcast. And I think being a young man and growing up as a teenager is a very difficult time in your life. I think when you actually look back on it, it's a lot easier being in Afghan than it is being in fucking secondary school in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And like you've got to take confidence where you can find it. So when your brother got you into the weights, like what kind of age were you?
I think I remember buying a set of weights when I was 15. I don't know if I'd started lifting before. I'd always sort of done pull-ups, press-ups, beast myself around the block. But I remember buying weights when I was 15, and I don't know if I had some before that as well.
Did you see a lot of people doing it growing up? Because I don't know how old you are now. I think you might be a bit younger than me. I'm 37 now. And like weights just wasn't really a thing that people did. People go out running and stuff, and you'd play rugby.
Yeah.
But unless you were the only people I knew who did weights were professional, like lads who were semi-professional or professional rugby players. It just wasn't a thing. Like back in 25 years ago.
Yeah, I'm 36, and yeah, I don't recall anyone really getting into the weights. And I lived in the country. I was isolated, so things like I played rugby at school, but yeah, there wasn't really. Yeah, I wasn't exposed to it. There wasn't anyone around me doing it.
It's funny though, isn't it? Because like rugby back in the day, it's like you just played rugby. There was no like sports conditioning around the side of it. It'd be like, right, go run some laps and then just bang into each other.
Yeah, it's good.
The sports side of things then, were you quite into like team sports?
I enjoyed running and I enjoyed rugby. I got into swimming. I'm not really sure how that happened or why it happened, but I remember I used to swim a lot after school. Yeah, so more.
Is your brother throwing you in rivers?
Yeah, that's it. This upbringing getting filled in by my older brother and having to like just adapt. Yeah.
Did you have any family go into the military before you?
Not immediate family. My grandfather was in the military, but no, I was sort of the first one. But also, it was the most likely choice for me. I've got two brothers, and they're both very academic, very clever. Went to uni and went on from that. I mean, my older brother, I don't know how sort of qualified he is with things. I know he did a master's, and he just keeps on doing. It's all surpassed me academically. I was just the physical one.
And is that why you chose the Marines specifically?
Yeah, I think because obviously the Marines was said to be the hard one. The harder one. I thought, yeah, I'll go for that. I did have a brief stint, so I joined the Army Cadets, and then I met someone who was in the territorial, and he said, look, you can get paid for doing it when you get to 17 or whatever. You can do it and get paid for it. So I ended up joining the reserves. So I was in an army regiment there, and then I did the full-time reserve service, like sort of very early on. I wanted to go in the Marines, but the Marine Reserve unit where I was hadn't opened up. So I did have this kind of little dip my toe in the water. Went out to Basra in 2004.
Hang on then, right? Well, sorry, man. We need to back up a bit here then, because that's quite a bit of a dip in the toe. The dip in the toe in that is. So let's. What kind of reserve unit was it you joined, and who did you deploy with?
It was so I joined the 51st Highlanders, and I was attached to the Welsh Guards. And it was I moved up to Scotland. I don't. It's a bit hazy when I look back on it. I don't really know. When I was 16, I left home, and I moved up to Scotland. Initially, I was I don't know what I was doing. I was off to do a course, and that course wasn't running, and I ended up doing a fill-in year course in Inverness. So all of a sudden, I find myself renting a bedroom in a house full of jocks who hate the English, and I'm going to college, and then I kind of steered to joining the reserves and doing that on the evenings and the weekends. And then when college had finished, I wanted to do more of that, and obviously Iraq was kicking off, and I applied for full-time reserve service, and I got attached to the Welsh Guards, and deployed out to Iraq in 2004.
Do you know Neil Gunn?
No, I don't think so.
From Shetland. He was a jock that went out with the Welsh Guards, a reserve that went out with the Welsh Guards around that time. So I thought you might have gone from.
Oh, really? We may have crossed paths then.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably went to chill or something together or something, probably at the same time.
Yeah.
How did you find that experience of going from? Because it's obviously something I've done myself as well. How did you find the experience of going from a TA unit into a regular unit?
You're kind of isolated, I guess, because obviously the regular unit, they've gone all the way through, and after doing reserves and then doing full time and being the military, as then in the Marines for 10 years, and having the military as your life, it is very different. And there's no way that someone who's just gone Civvy Street reserves can ever feel what it's like to be full-time military. So I understand why there's a bit of you're kind of on the outside. They're not going to let you in very easily. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the lads. But it was tricky coming that way in.
I feel with it that you're coming in with a stigma that you're going to be shit.
Yeah.
So if you prove that you're not shit, and if you actually prove that you actually can do your job quite well, you will be accepted.
Yeah.
But you're coming in with the expectation that you're going to be shit.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair expectation, because you can't expect someone to do sort of 4 weekends and be up to the standard of someone who's done 20 or 30 weeks of basic training. Just skills and drills aren't going to be there, are they? The muscle memory.
That's a great point. And I think they sorted that out as things got along. They sent people, like by the later tours of Afghanistan, you were doing the entire PDT package with the regular unit. So you'd be with them 6 months before you go out. So you'd be on a par. But I think when you went, they were literally just you could pass your bare minimum TA stuff, which is like 4 weekends in a 2-week camp, and then you go to Chilwell, do your maths, and be sent out to Iraq.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a shock to me. I remember standing. So I was based at old state buildings in Basra city centre, and I was a mini-me gunner on the back of the Snatch Land Rovers. And I remember just standing, looking around, thinking, "What am I doing?" As this naive kid, I think I was like 18 or 19, and I didn't know what I was doing. And all of a sudden, I'm standing there, and I was thinking, like, "What have I done?" Yeah.
Did you have much happen on that tour?
Yeah, we got IDF'd a lot, and we had a few contacts. We had to drive. I don't know how well you know Basra, but we'd drive up to Basra Palace. No, not Basra. The Shuttle Arab Hotel, and we'd go get resupplies from there, and we'd get contacted. The convoy would get contacted on those trips. But I mean, it was a completely different kettle of fish to Afghan. Like my tour of Afghan was a lot rougher. But then equally, it was tricky in Basra because it was urban warfare. So in Afghan, you can sort of get a bit more rest on the ground, hide in a wadi or something like that. Whereas in Iraq, you're literally on the street all the time with people looking at you, people everywhere. So you've got to be a lot more on the ball with that in that respect.
And what was your mission out there as like you as a unit and as an individual?
Oh man, I don't even know what I was doing.
But isn't that mad though? Is it because I think that goes for most of us in Iraq. If you asked us what we're doing out there, they'd be like, I have no fucking idea. Literally have no idea.
Yeah, provided Overwatch for various things and rocked around the city. Yeah.
Just drove around the city with a mini-me. That's it. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. It was I wanted out after that. I wanted out during it, but when I got back, I was like, "Yeah, that's me. I'm going. I'm not doing this."
What was it about it that you didn't enjoy?
It's a honking place.
Oh, Basra. Oh, so you mean you wanted out of Basra rather than out of the army?
Yeah, both. I think, and I guess going like sort of civvy reservist and then straight into conflict like that is it's a bit of a fast track. So you haven't had 20 weeks to 30 weeks basic training, skills and drills, building up, shooting, building up the closeness with the lads. And I mean, obviously, when I went through the Marines, then it was the focus is all about like the war fighting. So then by the time you get to Afghan, that's just like the next level. Whereas with Iraq, I went from like I don't even know what I was doing in Scotland, and then all of a sudden I've just fast tracked it straight to Basra, um, and I think it was jumping straight in the deep end with
Yeah,
it.
which can have its benefits as well, right? Because you realize, like, if I kind of think you kind of, well, I got chucked in the deep end here and I'm still alive. So just think what I can do if I actually get some fucking training.
Yeah, well, I mean, I started looking around, and I looked around at the other lads, and I felt that I was more keen. I was keen for it, and I felt that sort of physically I felt like I was fitter, and I felt in some ways I thought I'm more professionalist. I wanted more. It was I'm trying to think of a different word, like not an
I know
time.
I know where you're coming from, mate. Because I do feel like in the army, there's a lot of people that are there because it's a job
Yeah,
rather than necessarily like a call in to be. And this doesn't mean that the guys aren't warriors because they will step up at the time. But I think that especially in those earlier in because people need to understand because like we have young listeners on this are listening to us right now who can't understand like, well, how was somebody in Iraq if they didn't want to be fighting? Well, in the 90s and the early 2000s there wasn't really much going on, so you could join the army and it was basically a pretty buckshy job
yeah,
where you get paid to sit in camp. Because we had lads in 2006, well, I didn't fucking sign up for this, but they joined the army before the invasion of Iraq,
yeah,
and now all of a sudden they're on their third tour. But they never wanted to be involved in any of that stuff. Whereas like, like your later Afghans, people knew what they were signing up for at that point.
yeah,
And I think I think you're right, mate. Like I do think in a regular battalion, in a rifle platoon, there will be and I don't want to put a percentage on it off the top of my head, but there will be a reasonable number of that people in that rifle platoon who are there to do the bare minimum.
yeah,
And then there will be others who want to do more. And it can be very frustrating if you're one of those people that wants to do more. And then like you feel held back by those others. So I do think like what you're experiencing there is quite common because that's why either guys leave or they go to SF selection or they transfer. So it happens. It happens a lot. I don't think there's anything wrong with acknowledging that there is that kind of difference in people's attitudes there. So did you when you finished, actually, I'd just like to just get a bit of an idea about when you came back from Iraq. What was your demobilization kind of process like there? Because that would have been 2005, right, when you got back. So what was like demobbing like?
I don't really remember any sort of decent demobilization process. I think we just chucked our kit back in. I remember we were on a coach heading back up to Inverness, and I remember just saying, "Look, can I jump out here?" And I jumped out on the A1 and went home, and that was it. Like I remember I sort of knocked on the door, and my little bro, he was still at school. I knocked at the door, and he answered, and he's like, "You're back," He's like, are you here to stay? You're not going away again, are you? And I was like, Nah, I'm here. And then like I had a weird sort of, I guess it's adjustment disorder. I remember I'd wake up in the night and I was like, where's my mini me? Like, because my mini me was always under my bed, and I was like, where's my like it? I'd have sort of little. I felt like I was missing something. But yeah, I don't really remember too much of a demobilization process. And I think as the tours went on, and they got a lot better with trying to. But I think the adjustment disorders pretty big. You know, it's a bit. You're going from you're going through two different worlds. The contrast is massive.
Absolutely, mate. And for to just give some people some idea, anybody listening, how do you feel if you think you've left your phone somewhere else? Now imagine that phone is a fucking rifle or a mini-me. It feels very weird when you get back and you are cut off from having a weapon. You know, because we're talking, you know, 6 months, it's 180 days, where you know, if you lose that weapon, it's not so much what the enemy's going to do to you, but what the fucking platoon sergeant's going to do in the sergeant major. Like, you literally feel like your life is in danger if you're not got that with you. And
with you all the time, isn't it? So it's when you come back, and it is that feeling, you know, when you think you've lost your phone and you have that sort of that flash of panic. You're like, wherever left that, but 100 times more. Yeah.
How did you feel generally about being out in busy places and on roads and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, no, I wasn't happy. I was like real pissed off and angry, and I didn't like. I think I just avoided everything. And the thing is, because I came back and I was still a young lad, and I didn't have. I wasn't coming back to a family. I was in a position where I could just kind of thin myself out and do my own thing. And we're in the countryside, so I could just get out running and, you know, not go. I remember going into town a few times and not enjoying it.
What, just because of just not feeling comfortable there?
Yeah, I think not feeling comfortable, and also feeling sort of pissed off that I'd just been out there. But back in 2004, 2005, people didn't really know what was going on. I remember going to this shop, and I think someone just let the door drop in my face, and I literally just come back, and I'm like, I don't know. It was I was quite angry.
It's funny how a little incident like that, though.
Yeah, that's it really. It's hard to remember as well. If it feels like a long time ago.
Yeah, and those little things, mate. When you come back and you're very impressionable, it's like. I had like a incident that was on the opposite end. When I came back from Iraq, I was getting some pictures printed off at Boots, and this is like people are like, "What? You got pictures printed off?" Yes, we used to have digital cameras back in those days. And this guy was looking over my shoulder, and he goes, "Oh, you've been in Iraq, have you?" And I go, "Yeah." And he's like, and he stuck his hand out, and he was like, "Oh, thank you." And so I had that experience where I was like, "Oh, wow, that's great." But those little interactions, mate, when you get back, can send you one way or the other, really, can't they?
Yeah. A bit of acknowledgement and thanks is good. I think, just this rudeness of you know, someone just like let the door slam in my face, and it really pissed me off. You know.
Did you get any kind of oh god, what do they call them now? Like like a parade through a town, like and a medals presentation and that kind of thing?
Nah, we didn't have anything like that. Like I never went back up to the unit, not for a while anyway. I did drive back down to the Welsh Guards. I can't remember why. They were having some event, and I wanted to be there for that, so I drove down. But no, after that, at some point I would have gone back up to Inverness, and I think it was literally walked into someone's office and they had a medal for me in the drawer. Like, here's your medal. You know, there wasn't any parade and I think that's why I was like, you know, I'm done with the, you know, I've had to go at the military. I'm done with this. I'm out of here. And I went off traveling around the world.
Yeah, well, that, like you said, man, that stuff makes a difference as well. Like that little, like that person that had it in the drawer. Like, and look, you know, the army's a big organization. It's got a lot of things to do. But I always think that like something like that someone could have taken 20 minutes of their time to get a few people together and have like a little, even if it's in a fucking office, a little kind of ceremony of sorts. Because the ceremony doesn't need to be marching through the town and standing attention and everything. It can just be a few people together and just like, you know, make a little thing, have some fucking cake.
Yeah.
Or something. Because that stuff leaves a taste, mate. Again, I had similar, when I left, I did, 12 years, including the TA. And when I went to hand my kit in, the officer didn't even come downstairs to give me a handshake. He just faxed the fucking paperwork down to the CQMS, and that was it. I'm like, all right, cheers, I guess. Like, right, that's it. That's it. After 12 years, is it not even a handshake? You know,
it's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, we had someone. I'm not going to mention the name, like, but I had someone message me the other day to say that their issues after the military was nothing to do with seeing wounds or anything. It was all came down to being treated like a bit of kit and thrown out like a bit of kit. And I think that because it shakes your core beliefs.
Yeah.
You know, if your core beliefs are that the army is a family, which is what they tell you, so why wouldn't you believe it? And then when you find out it's not, it's like that can really shake someone down to the core.
Yeah, it's upsetting, you know. Like I think you give everything to it. You put your life on the line and say, "Look, I'm here," you know. And then when you finish and you walk out of those gates, no one cares. You know, there's not. It's yeah, it's a shame that you think I've just given a decade and a half of my life to doing all this, and then literally you just walk out the gates and it's over like that. You sort of feel like you feel like you should, I don't know. There should be something else. There should be something more.
But you know what's funny though, mate, is that then like, and I'm not comparing what you and me did to D-Day or anything like that or the Second World War, so I'm not saying that. But then you're watching TV and you're like, fucking hell, they're putting on this awesome, massive celebration for this like Second World War stuff. And because it's weird, because on one side you're seeing the evidence that they do treat people like good family forever, but then you're like, well, they're not doing that to any. I'm not seeing anything for Northern Ireland veterans or for Falkland veterans. It's almost like if you weren't in the Second World War, it's like, well, you are in the family, but you're like a kind of distant cousin and you're ginger, and we don't really want too much to do with you.
Yeah.
So you're traveling there, mate. Where did you go? Where did you go on your travels, and what kind of experience was that for you?
So a good friend of mine who actually got me into the motorbiking, he was just finishing uni and saying, "Look, I'm going to take a gap year." I'd come back from Iraq and I had some cash saved up, and I ended up, what was it, like a leave of absence? I took like I didn't leave, but I just took a break from
Yeah, like a sabbatical.
yeah, and initially we flew out to New York. So like we did like a around the world trip. We went out to New York, and it was pretty cool. Like I remember we slept in Central Park. You know, like we're just sleeping everywhere. We climbed up. You've got New York Public Library. It has these massive big balconies on it. And one night we climbed up into the balconies and like laid out our roll mats and just got our heads down there. And then we took a bus up to Detroit. I was a massive Eminem fan, so I wanted to go to Detroit. We went to the 8 Mile Road, and we bought this car for $300 on the 8 Mile Road. It had like no number plates, and it was we did 6,000 miles across North America in this car, like living out of it. We got pulled over a few times, obviously because we didn't have number plates, and we sold the car again in LA. Flew to New Zealand, bought another car there, did the same sort of thing there. Then went to Australia, went up the East Coast, took the train over to the West Coast, came back up to Thailand, and then the trip was to finish in Rome, and we were going to get motorbikes. It was at the time of the Long Way Round with Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman, and my mate was massively sold on it, and the plan was to get motorbikes and to ride back through Europe, back to England. But I had one of my mates from Iraq came out to join us in Rome, and we ended up traveling back on the trains.
Nice. So what kind of like, as far as your mental state goes, and as far as your kind of your world view, like when you came back from Iraq, you know, you were saying you didn't really like to be around other people and clubs and all that kind of stuff. Would you say that the travel kind of, well, I don't want to say sorted you out, because that kind of insinuates that there's something wrong with you, but did you find like a bit of peace and purpose by doing that traveling?
I think you have to blow out a bit, because the situation's just crazy. You're going from one world to another world, and it's kind of too much in a way. And I think lads do need to just blow out a bit, which, as long as you can try and minimize the collateral on that. But yeah, getting out and traveling, we met a load of cool people along the way, and it was quite mad just doing what we wanted to do. It was a really great experience. And I actually started like wanting to be in the military then. Right. So like whilst we were traveling, I remember when we got to New Zealand, I was fixated on joining the Corps. I wanted to be in the Marines. And we were living out of the car, so we'd sleep in the car. We had a tent. And my mate used to just love having a lie in, and I hated it. I was up in the morning and I was like, I'm good to go. And it got to the point where I would just set off running down the road, and at some point he would wake up and then he would drive and he'd pick me up. So like sometimes, I mean, sometimes like he didn't get up to like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So sometimes I'd be running for hours.
Fuck.
But in my head, it's like, yeah, I'm going to be a Marine. I'm going to be a Marine. And it's sort of that retrospective enjoyment. You kind of forget about the bad things. I've kind of forgot about how bad times were in Iraq. And I was just fixated on becoming a Marine.
Where did that come from then? Like, where like, is the Marine thing in particular?
I'm trying to think how, where I first got exposed to the Marines. I remember I picked up the application forms once, and it was at the time I think you had to get your parents to sign it. I think I was too young to do it myself. And I think the driving thing back then was I wanted to make my parents proud. And then I didn't go in the Marines. I did a little stint there with the army, and I guess I just had this niggle. This niggle was still going, and as we were traveling, it was just niggling me more. And like literally, as soon as I got back to England, I went to the careers office and applied straight away, and that was me. But I don't know. I can't remember. I know that I used to have a poster of the Marines on my wall, but no, I don't know where it came from.
It's interesting as well, though. It's like you went from a situation where you don't really have any freedom because you're being told where to be, what to do, and all that when you're in Iraq. Then you go to total freedom of doing your own thing as you're going around the world, and then you kind of like you opt back into a system that like you're literally going to get your fingernails checked. Like, but I think I do think that young men. Like you said, I'm totally agree with you. I think young men need blowouts. I think like if you want to guarantee a marriage going to shit, then don't let your husband go out with the blokes and stuff. That's one way to guarantee. But on the other hand, I do think we need fucking structure, especially when we're young men.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you went to the Marines, then like, what did you like? What were the big differences about it that you found with the army, and what were the things out of it that you really enjoyed doing?
I think the sort of the morals there is you kind of a lot more so there. You're grilled on bad behavior is punished and good behavior is rewarded, and it turns you into you're just striving not to do anything that's jack, not to see the lads off, and you want to square the lads away, and it sort of it develops good behaviors. And I think then there's very little theft in the Marines compared to the army. I think there's less bullying. I think it's a nicer environment to work in.
Do you think that the age that people join has something to do with that?
Yes, you get a lot. I mean, especially infantry units, you're getting a lot of young lads joining. And in the Marines, you still get, there's still lads there joining at 16, but then it goes all the way up to 32, and you've got like maybe the majority is kind of early 20s. So the lads are a little bit older. Maybe you've done a bit more education, done a little bit more before going into the military.
What did you find hardest during your training?
I don't know. Like I think I loved it, but I can't have done. I had little micro fractures in my femurs. And bad shin splints. Like my legs gave me a lot of shit, and the muscle was pulling on, like sort of pulling away from the bone. But it's the little micro fractures in my femurs where they would niggle, and it got to the point where they said, if you come back to the med center, we're gonna have to back troop you because it was bad. So obviously I just never went back to the med center.
It's one of those ones because people talk about David Goggins, who, don't get me wrong, is an absolute beast, but they're like, oh yeah, he ran on 2 broken legs. Like, yeah, he did, and he is a beast, but probably half his troop was also running on broken legs at that time. If you're doing SEAL training or Roman.
It does sound bad. But I mean, like David Goggins is an absolute machine. Like,
yeah, he is, mate. But like that, but like you yourself were running on 2 broken legs in essence. Like that is what people do in like 32 weeks. Was 32 weeks you do?
Yeah, 32 weeks.
Yeah, so if you're doing 32 weeks, your body's going to be broken. Like it's going to be. You're not getting through without it. Did you do a join-in run?
Yeah, at 4-5 Commando. So I went up to 4-5, which is in Scotland, and I joined the Zulu company. And I'd heard about Zulu company before I even knew much about the Marines. Um, yeah. So yeah, I did a joining run when I got there.
Can you talk? Can you tell us what join and run is first?
It's initiation into the Corps. It's like a big welcoming into the Royal Marine family that they're not allowed to do anymore. It was. I would be upset if I hadn't done one. Obviously, there's nothing nice about it at all. But I'd be upset if I hadn't done one.
Can you give us some details about what kind of thing goes on a join and run, which are now illegal? We'd like to state.
Yeah, it's just the lads get together, have a few drinks, and welcome you into the Marines. I know that when we had to do this, we were paired up, and we had to, the repack boxes. So it's like a removals box, big cardboard box. We had to make cars out of those and have a race. Yeah, I mean, you probably wouldn't want to see it. There's a lot of nakedness and a lot of drinking, and there's a lot of anticipation around it as well.
Yeah, I've heard stuff involving like a lot of nakedness and thorn bushes and like roll mat fighting and all that kind of stuff. But it's weird, because like we kind of had, I think every unit back in the day used to have some kind of initiation like that, which involved basically getting filled in and while people laughed. But
yeah,
I don't see that when your job is to go to war. I don't see why that's a bad thing.
No, 100%. I think it's a shame that, and I'm not sure when you left, probably similar time to me, a little bit, around that kind of time, but you will have seen this transition from, sort of calming down on the initiation, the joining runs, the accommodation getting split up into the single living as opposed to like a big room of the lads. And all you're creating is this isolation. So young lads joining the military and then go to a unit, they might as well be staying in a Premier Inn. They've got their own room, and you're losing that. Like, essentially, we're tribal beings, and you're joining your tribe, and that's getting kind of taken away. You're getting isolated, and I think you're getting all these lads who are then just sitting in their rooms by them. It's not going in a good direction, I don't think.
Yeah, it's like you're not in the army, but you're not in Civvy Street either. You're just like, it's almost like being in prison in a sense, that you're just in your room and there's rules on top of you.
Yeah.
It just seems weird, mate, because it's like, I can understand if I've got a call centre and you turn up, I'm like, "Hi James, welcome to Gez's call centre. By the way, tonight we're all going to get naked and we're going to throw you in a phone bush." You'd be like, "Well, hang on, what's that got to do with working in a call centre?" And I'd say, "This is a special call centre, mate." But if we're going to war and our job is going to be to kill people together, and like there's a very good chance that at some point I'm going to be holding your guts into your stomach, then I don't see what's wrong with us just kicking the shit out of each other while we'll have a few drinks. I just don't get it.
Yeah, no, like I said, I agree with the sort of join and run. I think it's, like I said, I'd be disappointed if I'd gone through my career without doing one. Obviously, I wouldn't want to do one later on in my career, but doing it right at the start, that's you initiated into the Corps. And then, yeah, like not long after that, we were deploying out to Afghanistan and doing all that horrible stuff. But it's, yeah.
Tell us more about that then, the Afghanistan.
I think Afghans so I went out there 2008, and it was, it's pretty rough. We were based in a little mud compound it used to be a Taliban compound. It got taken over and fortified, and we lived there. And it was the main aim. So I know what the main aim for when I was out in Afghan, it was just to take kind of ease it up a bit for Sangin. Sangin was the main effort, and you had a lot of fighters would make their way to Sangin to go fight the military there. So we were just there to kind of intercept them and have the scrap there just to relieve a bit of pressure.
How did that compare to Basra then in terms of like operationally?
Yeah, a lot more firefights. A lot more contacts. We split the time down into 5 days. We'd be out on the ground patrolling. So at the forward operating base, we're split into two, and half of us would guard that place and half of us would patrol for 5 days, and then you'd switch it over. And obviously there's no downtime. We're too short man to have any downtime. It was just literally on this rotation of 5 days scrapping and 5 days giving Overwatch. So yeah, there's a lot more, and because you're in that fixed location, you can only go a certain number of ways out of that camp. So therefore, the enemy will just IED belt you in. So you can't really move, and it's very slow when you're on the ground. And we'd only push maybe a few 100 meters out, and we'd be scrapping, scrap for a couple of hours, and then come back in. Yeah, it's quite mad. I mean, obviously, as a young soldier, young Marine, it's what you want to be doing, but it very quickly sort of, you're like, I wouldn't mind a rest. I wouldn't mind going on patrol and not scrapping today.
So it was when you went out on these patrols, then you'd be working from the patrol base, or were you going out and staying out? Were you going out and staying out overnight and taking over compounds and that kind of thing?
The majority we would go out and come back in. There were a few ops where we'd go out and stay out overnight, maybe secure another compound and stay there for the night, or just scrap through the night. But most of the time we'd come back to the fob.
What were some of the highlights of the tour for you?
It is a simpler life. You know what you're doing. You get up and there's not. It's a simple way of living, which I think it was nice to have that simplicity in life. I'm glad I did it, but not really sure about highlights.
Well, you mentioned purpose earlier. Purpose through adventure. Is that something that you felt while you were in Afghanistan, that you had purpose?
I mean, I believe that what we were doing is, obviously we've got this situation, this global situation, and by us going out there, we're kind of keeping the scrapping out there, as opposed to having more 7/7 London bombings or things like that. So I felt that it was a good thing that we were kind of keeping the scrapping out there. But I don't know. So yeah, we did have purpose.
How about you as an individual, though? Like, were you kind of? Did you feel? I think one of the things as we go through life is we quite often. It's not so much when you feel like, right, I've got everything in place, but it's more the absence of feeling that something's missing. Because quite often it's like you're lying in bed at night and you're thinking about what you haven't got or what's missing from your life. I mean, well, one good thing about Afghan is you're usually too tired to fucking think about anything. You just fall asleep. Yeah. But like, did you feel like you were where you were supposed to be?
Yeah. In some ways, it felt good. I still, it's a bit of a tricky one to talk about as well. I think it's quite an uncomfortable subject. You know what I mean?
Was it hard tour in a sense of loss?
Yeah, we lost a few guys, and obviously there's nothing nice about that. And just kind of, just wears you down a bit. There's a lot, obviously a lot of injuries. Yeah, I think there was quite a lot of loss on that through those years. I think I once looked on I think the BBC had a death toll, and you can just see it rising to that sort of time where it's kind of peaking. So it's quite, I think, for everyone around that time, it was pretty gnarly.
When you went out there, were you expecting to come back, or were you somebody that's thinking like, if anyone's going to get it, it's going to be me?
Nah, I thought I'm coming back. I've had like quite a few experiences where I'm like, there's got to be someone like just watching out for me, because there's no way I should still be here.
Well, what is your kind of like kind of religious, spiritual kind of outlook on life?
Oh, mate, I don't know. I've pushed down different routes. I know that kind of in 2013, I started getting sort of quite spiritual, got into my yoga, and I was big on my surfing. I've kind of come away from that a little bit and looked more like logical, methodical approaches to situations. So I'm not really sure where I stand with it. I try and just be logical with things. So like meditation's a good one, because meditation's it's so intertwined with like Eastern beliefs and mystery and this, and the thing is, there's some very good parts in it, but there's also a lot of not so useful bits. And if you can extract the good stuff, the beneficial stuff from the kind of hazy stuff, then it's I think it can be very beneficial. There's a guy that I'm listening to a lot called Sam Harris,
Oh yeah,
and he
lovely.
has an app, and he's mega logical, mega methodical. He's always talking to people who are sort of neuroscientists, and it's he's hit meditation, and he's gone off down this kind of scientific approach instead of going Eastern religion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I'm a big fan of Sam Harris. And to be honest, it was people like him that kind of swayed me towards it. Because my thing in the past was
Yeah,
always be because we're youngish, opinionated men a lot of the time when I first started looking at this, and I'm like, I'm not going to be one of those fucking weirdos doing chants and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
But his kind of idea of meditation is like, look, you don't need anything to do with that. Like the reason you're doing and this is, I'm 100% convinced on this now, that if you meditate and practice mindfulness on a daily basis, you will be a far more efficient killer. So if you're in the military right now and you want to be a fucking big bad motherfucker and go around dropping enemy like fucking Audie Murphy, then the way to do that is to do things like meditation, because when you do a section attack and you have your little condor moment where you're looking around, you're making your little plan about where you're gonna go and how you're gonna move there. That is essentially what you're doing there, is disconnecting yourself from what's going around you, so that you can see things from a third person perspective. And meditation is just the same thing. It just allows you to look at your thoughts as with a third person perspective.
definitely a lot more clear, a very clear way of doing it. Just that kind of shining that attention into the what's appearing in consciousness. And yeah, if you can have it like a blank, neutral, non-emotional state where you can go, okay, this is the situation, so therefore this is what needs to be done. It's a very clear, logical approach, instead of being caught up in, it's easy to get caught up in emotion, especially in those kind of times when it's, your sole purpose is to close with and kill the enemy. You can get a lot of anger in there. So yeah, I think to be efficient, it definitely, and I think there's nothing but benefits for a daily mindfulness practice. And if we'd had this chat maybe a year ago, I wouldn't be, I was still attaching that word mindfulness and the stigma attached to it, and sort of kind of tarring it with the same brush as all the Eastern beliefs and all that stuff that surrounds it, and not actually extracting the beneficial side of it.
I mean, I don't think there's anything that can give you a return on investment like the time spent on mindfulness can. Like, it takes a lot of time to get fit. It takes a lot of time, in my case, to write a book. It takes time to do a podcast. Literally 3 or 5 minutes of mindfulness a day will make massive changes in your life.
Yeah, 100%.
What are some of the other kind of practices that you do, which you do with the aim of I'll just quote unquote self-improvement?
I mean, obviously it's a constant evolving and developing thing. I've just come across a guy called James Clear, who he talks about habits, and I think for me, I try and install discipline and structure, because without it, then my time just disappears. I don't get anything done. I'm not very good at getting on with stuff. So I try and install that discipline. So at the moment, every morning when I get up, I just go straight out the door running. And it's not about the run. It's not about times or distances. It's purely because, one, I don't want to do it. And two, it's just getting that discipline into my life. And I think we've got these inbuilt mechanisms in us, and essentially we're all lazy. And the reason we're lazy is because it's this mechanism telling us to conserve energy. Like, don't go burn that energy. You don't know, but it doesn't apply to today's life. So we have to kind of override this internal this internal monologue that's going, don't go out running, don't do this, don't, and just, it's more, it's what I've realized, it's more doing the things that I don't want to do, but I know are beneficial to me, than doing what I want to do. Like if I lived a life where I did what I wanted to do, I'd be eating cake every day. I wouldn't get anything done. It'd be horrendous. So it's doing the things that I don't want to do, but I know that will benefit me, like getting up, getting out the door, running, and just installing that discipline into my life.
Yeah, I think a big thing there as well is, for the rest of the day, then you've accomplished something, and knowing, because there's one thing accomplishing something that you wanted to do, and there's another doing something that you didn't, and that win at the beginning of the day, I think then just really sets you up well. Like, look, like the army, and I'm sure the Marines are the same. One of the great things they do is make you do this in the mornings. Like, you probably don't. There's probably no way you were going for that run at fucking 6 o'clock in the morning in the middle of December if it wasn't for the military. And
yeah,
it's harder to do it on your own. It's harder when you're not going to get a guard on the weekend if you're fucking late. But that's the fact is that stuff will make you more successful in everything else that you do. As much as I hate to say it, that the army, the PT in the morning thing, it does have its benefits. Like, you mentioned yoga there. Is that something that you still do?
Yeah, I still do yoga. That's part of it. I've got a morning routine, and I try and stick to it as much as I can. And at the moment, I feel like I'm being pretty consistent to it. And I've got my Sam Harris there. I've got my running. I've got my yoga. And it's not long by any means. It's just, it feels nice to get out of bed and just kind of stretch out a little bit, stretch the back, stretch the legs, and it just kind of feels nice. And I think, when I've done my run and I've done a bit of yoga, got a shower, done some yoga, then listen to the Sam Harris for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I feel in a lot better place to start the day. And like I said, it's overriding that little voice, that little whiny voice that says, I don't want to go for a run. Because if you listen to that, you'll never be successful. It's like, with the neuroplasticity of the not doing anything, you're just engraving, they talk about the roots in your brain, where it's like a skier going down the same path, and it's the more you do it like that, the more ingrained these sort of roots become. But if you shut that voice up and go do something different, you're then carving out new roots. And I think like David Goggins talks about it being comfortable in the uncomfortable. And if you think that you're not going to have any bad stuff happen to you in your life from now to the end of your life, then you'd have to think like that. There is going to be a time when you're going to get confronted with some hardship and you've got to deal with a situation. So I think all this is training for that, where you're doing things that you don't want to do, and you're shutting up that little voice and you're just getting on with it.
No, I think you're dead right, mate. None of us are going to go through life without suffering, even if it's losing your cat or your dog or something. We all suffer at some point. And the thing with the discomfort as well is, like, I see people that are massively overweight struggling to go upstairs or something. I'm thinking, like, you could go to the gym and be uncomfortable, but that's going to have a benefit to doing it. Like, right now, you're uncomfortable. Like, I'm not having it that someone that's grossly overweight is comfortable. You're constantly uncomfortable because your body or your internal organs are struggling to deal with what you've got there. There's nothing fucking, like, comfortable about not being able to fucking reach your ass to wipe your ass. Like, you're gonna, one way or another, you're gonna be uncomfortable in life. So find the uncomfort that's going to benefit you.
Yeah.
With that, I just want to, because I want to give Sam Harris his due. Is that the Waking Up app that you use?
It is, yeah. And it was my little brother got me into it, and we started listening to it. Then I think if you download the app, you can get maybe, I don't know, 10 sort of days worth for free, and you can listen to a couple of conversations. But if you want to progress with it, then you subscribe. And like he says, it's not about making money. And if you're in a position that the money is going to be the reason you don't do it, then if you send them an email, so say I'm really struggling with this, with finances, but I really want to get involved with that, they'll give you a year's subscription for free, no questions asked, which I think is fantastic. But I think it's, maybe £100. And it's like, I'm a tight Yorkshireman. It is a beneficial thing, definitely.
You should just get some of your Viking mates together, go raid a monastery, mate, and then pay for it with gold crucifixes. You'll be set.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Sam Harris, dude. And when I heard he was doing that, I was like, right, okay, I'm gonna go out and buy. I bought his audio book and stuff recently, which I can only listen to like half an hour at a time because it's big brain stuff. I'm like, all right, heads it in now. But no, I think that was awesome about it, and I recommend guys checking him out. He's one of those people that comes in from stick for people because they're like, oh, that's Sam Harris. He's like right wing and stuff. It's like, oh, really? What's he said that's right wing? And they just heard this negative thing about it, and I'm like, I'm going to judge him on the action that he gives people this great app for free. How about judging him on his actions rather than something that you've heard like third hand from someone?
Who else is doing something like that? Who's got something that's super beneficial? And I think combining that with you should check out James Clear, and it's Sam Harris actually has a conversation with James Clear on the app, and I love it when things like that, you've got one guy here that you're sort of looking up to, one guy here that you look up to, and then all of a sudden you find them having a conversation, and it's like, well, you guys know each other. James Clear talks about our habits. So we have this fixation on goal setting, and it's good to have a goal because it gives you a clear vision of what you're trying to aim for. But essentially the goal is one, it's more of an outcome of a habit. You have to say your goal is to run a marathon, then your habit needs to be getting out, hitting the road, and then the marathon will come as like an outcome of the habits of being a runner. So it's we look at things like the wrong way around, really, and James Clear talks about how essential habits are and how important it is to get your habits squared away. And then you've got Sam Harris talking about how essential it is to be aware of what thoughts you're having and what thoughts are appearing in consciousness. And I think these two things are vital to how the outcome of your life, because your life is made up of like nothing more than the thoughts that you're living and the habits that you're doing every day. They're the two components of what your life is. I think if you don't address these two areas, you're destined for maybe a not as fulfilled life as you could have.
Yeah, I totally agree, mate. I get asked, all the time, how'd you go about writing a book? Well, I'm like, write a page a day. Just write a page a day or something a day. By the end of the year, you'll have 365 pages. There you go. It's it's simple. People are like the whole I love the Jocko thing. People ask Jocko, how'd you get better at pull-ups? Do more pull-ups. Like you just have to just do these things. Like it's incremental, and you walk up a mountain. Your goal might be to walk up the mountain. Well, your process has to be taking one foot in front of the other. It's real. We overcomplicate things
massively. I was having a conversation with someone just, I think, literally yesterday, and it was they're the kind of person that they want to get everything sorted. They want it to be exactly the right time to go do whatever they're going to do. They want to make sure they've got the right clothes on, they've got all the right kit with them, and they've got and it's essentially you've just got to start doing it, and then bring those bits in as you progress with it, and one thing, like they say, anticipation is worse than participation, and a lot of people just, they mull over, say they want to get fit and they go, well, what should I be eating or what? And it's all key things, but it makes up like 2% of the results. The main thing is actually getting on and doing it.
Absolutely, man. And one of the things there, though, is there is this thing where quite often planning something will give you the same sense of satisfaction as actually doing it.
Are you being proactive or just active? And I used to think about that a lot because, you start doing stuff and it's like, am I being proactive or am I just being active? And it's, doing that thing, like planning it, writing out a schedule, a training log, buying the kit. And it's like, right, I'm all set to get fit, but they've not actually done anything.
Yeah, that half an hour where you were color coding the tabs on your training plan, you could have just done half an hour of burpees. you'd be further along. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that planning isn't important, because it is, but it has to be put in the order that, like, the Tony Robbins thing, you know, like one of the things that I love, one of the like the words that stuck in my head from him is, when you have an idea or whatever goal, you have to take massive action immediately. So, like, in the sense, so if you're like, right, I'm going to get fit, your massive action shouldn't be, now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to research what trainers to wear and I'm going to research what yoga pants to wear. It should be, get out the door and get moving, right? And then because
Yeah.
otherwise you just start, once you start going down the road of going into the minutiae of details about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you've lost then. It's very hard to come back from that. And one of the reasons the British military has been so successful is because we don't always have things go that well. So, you know, when the guys got down to the Falklands and the fucking helicopters have been lost and, you know, they haven't got the right kit and everything, because they were used to that in training, it was like, all right, well, I guess we're just going to walk across the island and then bayonet people in the face, you know, because that, like, if they'd have had everything go right all the way through their military careers, they would have cracked. They wouldn't have been able to deal with that. You know, if they were like, well, you know, we can't leave here until we've got these sleeping bags and we'll have to wait for more helicopters to come from the UK. No, they're just like, right, well, we'll just crack on. And, you know, you see that a lot in the military, and, you know, it's something that we need to remember, that not everything needs to be, you can get the result without everything needing to look perfect in leading up to it. You know, it's what matters is actually taking the action.
I was just going to say the best time to do something is now. You know, if you want to get into running or whatever, just start. You've got to just get out the door and get running. And it, like I said, it doesn't matter initially about your time or your distance, but it's building that habit, because you become a runner by doing the habit of running. So it's, yeah, I think people focus on the wrong things, you know.
Yeah, totally, mate. So, like, you know, 2020, I think, has been, I think, like, and look, some people have harder circumstances than the others. I understand that, but I think this has been a year where you can really see the difference in people in this, because it's like, if you've been saying, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and you've had 3 months furloughed on pay at home, and you haven't started it, then you probably never will. How has 2020 been, you know, for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm very fortunate to be in a, you know, very good situation, and I've not been massively affected. I mean, I've not been affected in a detrimental way. Obviously, I'm a full-time performer, and for the last 4 years, that's what I've done. That's how I've made my money. And this year, there's no events, there's no weddings, so it has had that impact on my life. But I think for me, it's been a very good year. I've got into the Sam Harris, got into the James Clear, got into the Jordan Peterson, had a big reflective period on life, and I feel a lot more focused with what I'm doing and where I'm going. I've done a lot of fitness. I mean, with the Magic as well, I've been on national television with the Britain's Got Talent, got through to the semi-finals, flew out to Italy to perform on national TV out there on one of their talent shows. It's been fantastic. And also one of the lads in the Marines got me a bit of work through the summer, which, although I haven't made much money from the Magic this year, I managed to make enough from that. It's been a good year for me.
So let's talk about the Britain's Got Talent one, mate. So how did that work? Did you film that this year?
Yeah, that was, so the audition was in February, so before the lockdown, and it's like I've never been on stage. The whole transition from Marine to magician was an unintentional career shift. You know, I left the military, and I did a property maintenance course as part of my resettlement. And it was only because lads kept saying, "Oh, mate, can you come do some magic at my event? I'm getting married, or I'm having a party here. Can you come do some magic?" I just slowly kind of got into it, and I realized that actually this is something that I can do that will provide me with the lifestyle I want. When I left the Corps, I was restless, and the main things that I was craving was freedom, you know. And obviously I hadn't had that, and I kitted out a surf van, and I mean, the ideal kind of week would be work a Saturday at a wedding and get a few £100, and then spend a week surfing. And that was like this. I really wanted to push down that. It would never sort of ended up being like that, but I kitted out this adventure van, and then became a full-time performer. But I'd never been on stage, and I got speaking with the Britain's Got Talent people, and they said, "Oh, can you do dangerous stuff?" And I said, "I do stuff with fire," but they're like, "No, we want big, dangerous stuff." And it was like, it's a different area of magic that I'd not looked at. But I got a guy to help me, and we put together the routines. And I mean, that's the first time I walked out on stage, and I didn't know that I was walking out on stage in front of Simon Cowell until like 4 days before. And I was rehearsing the routine with the guy, and I thought I was going to Manchester to do like a big mock rehearsal. And I said, when I do this in Manchester, is that for like some mock judges? And he said, no, that's in front of Simon Cowell and all the judges and 2,000 people. And I was massively out of my comfort zone on that one. I enjoyed it, and I was happy with it.
Is that something you think you can see yourself going down now, doing more stage performances like that?
Yeah, 100%. I think it ties in. I wanted to kind of push away from the wedding magic and go more into, I want to be an adventure magician, on the motorbikes and doing the street magic, and then doing big routines as well, like up in the mountains and just all over, traveling and doing magic. And I think if we can put something together, more stage performance, it's going back to this purpose through adventure and seeing if we can make a lifestyle through doing these trips. And when we come back from our trips, we can tour around, depending on the situation, we can tour around the country, essentially presenting talks, do a tour around the country. So it's not just a magic show, it's got other elements in it, it's got a lot more story in it. I think I'll be performing on stage a lot more. I've got different events lined up over the next. Well, there's one on New Year's Day, and then looking into next year.
So, what makes up your purpose? Like, what and is it as a changing thing, or is it quite set?
Yes, I mean, we've sort of gone round. Me and my brother, we do a lot of chatting, and it's gone round and round. We've had a bit of a change on perspective on life and looking at what's important, and then kind of choosing the things that are important. And I think if we can, obviously everyone talks about giving back as well. If we can do something that can be beneficial to other people, then that would be fantastic. With the bike trips, we'll be supporting 2 charities, Reorg and Rock to Recovery. But if we can do more to give back, whether that's entertainment or inspiring, or taking people on trips with us, we're still but I think the purpose, just trying to have a life doing the things that we want to be doing, as opposed to getting channeled into a life that you don't want to be in.
I think as well, when it's people talk about giving back, and it's like, give back doesn't need to be financial. Giving back could be making some kids laugh for the day. Like, that's your give back. It's like, basically, all give back should mean is you're putting something positive out into the world, and that's it.
Yeah, a bit of altruistic behaviour, doing something for the other people.
Yeah, and it's without expectation of return is like the kind of the other flip side of that. Like, where do you like how far, actually, let me rephrase that. How far ahead in your future do you kind of look when you're thinking about like the plans for your life?
Well, I mean, like I said, this year I've done a lot of reflection, and followed Jordan Peterson a lot with his stuff, and actually looking at kind of future authoring, what do I need to be doing now to be living the life I want to be living, and then how is that going to pan out into the future. And at the moment, I'm sort of, I guess, looking at least the next 5 years, because I don't know how you are, like where you are in terms of family and that, but for me, I'm conscious that I would potentially like to have a family, and I can maybe spend the next 4 years doing the adventure magic, and then after that, look at maybe trying to settle it down a little bit and having a bit more, maybe putting some roots down and looking at building a nest, as it were. So I think, yeah, kind of the next 5 years, I'm trying to see how it's going to pan out over the next 5 years.
Yeah, that future authoring, mate. Again, that's a really good concept that people should check out. Because the thing with us in the military, mate, and young lads in general, is you're very like live in the moment, aren't you? Which is great.
Yeah.
But then there comes a point where it's like, if you're continuously living in the moment, then you might end up going in a direction that you have to have some kind of guidance in your life, or actually, let me say that again. You don't have to, but then you might not end up where you'd like to be, and then you have to make the work to get back across that position. So it's very well living in the moment, but at the same time, you need to have a rough idea of where you're heading, because if you want to become a magician, then if you're living in the moment and just going out and doing all kinds of other stuff that might be fun, like, might be going rock climbing every day, that's not going to get you to your place of where you want to be a magician,
Yeah. It's jumping back to what I said before with the trying to make the choices and decisions to do the things that maybe I don't want to do but are beneficial to me, as opposed to doing the things that I want to do. So like when I get up, I don't want to go for a run, but I know that it'll be beneficial if I do. So it's trying to make the choices, and you could like apply it to everything. If you're struggling with your diet, like you can eat your shit scran on a Sunday, and then when it comes to it and it's Tuesday and you're looking at a brownie, you don't even have to make the choice. You can just taking those choices away. You don't have to make the choice because it's not Sunday. So it's like, well, I really want to eat this brownie, but I can't because it's not Sunday. I'm just really trying to hammer in a bit of discipline.
Setting rules ahead of time, I think, is very important in life. Not just when it comes to yourself, but just in general. So, because quite often what will happen is if you wait until a moment to decide how you feel about something, then you can be swayed by, again, this comes back to the whole emotions, where, you're being ruled by emotions and stuff. And, so for instance, if you say, like you're saying there, right, Sunday is the only day I'm allowed to eat brownies, then you've got a very clear set of rules there that you're breaking those rules. Whereas if, on the other hand, you go, well, once a week I can have them, then that starts to give yourself that kind of wiggle room.
Yeah.
And, the same in morality. If you're like, I'll take cheating on your partner as an example. If you're like, I'd never cheat on my partner unless I'm out of the country, then you start to have these different rules. It's like you have to give yourself rules. And then if you've got then a nice big pair of boobies in your face, you just go, no, I don't cheat. Rather than, well, I'm suppose if this and this and this, you have to do, dude. And it's working them out ahead of time is very important, and writing them down so you know what are your rules? What do you stand for? What do you believe in?
I don't think many people actually, seem to put the effort into like, who am I? Who do I want to be? And the person that I want to be, would the person I want to be do that? And yeah, fixing those rules when you're in a situation where you're not going to be emotionally driven, So it's because, yeah, it's a lot harder to try and make the decision on the spot. But if you have like a layout, yeah, jumping back to the future offering of who you want to be. And yeah, if it's too vague, then yeah, it just, the boundaries slip. But if it's set that on Sunday you can eat whatever you want, so if it's not Sunday you can't, then it's nice and clear, and it's you don't have to make that decision when you're faced with that problem.
Yeah, exactly. It's taking, because the thing is, mate, one thing we're great at as human beings is coming up with reasons and excuses. You can always find a reason and excuse to get around something, and that's, it's so important to have, clear set rules. Mate, thank you for coming on today. It's this, we have to do another one of these, mate, because I love talking about this kind of stuff. And now I know that we've got like a kindred thing going on here, then I've got a lot more stuff in this department that I'd love to talk about.
Yeah.
But have you got any parting words for the noble listeners before we go our separate ways for now?
I think essentially just having to think about the sort of person you want to be, and making the decisions and choices benefit that person you want to be and how they would want to live. So that might mean doing things that you don't want to do, and maybe not doing the things that you want to do.
I'll use myself an example, because I don't want people thinking that I'm saying I don't do this stuff, because I do, and that's why I'm saying it, because I know there are times where I'll do a decision and then I'll be like, right, did that line up with who you want to be? No, clearly it doesn't. It's, and you've got to hold yourself accountable when you do that, when you do slip up, because you will slip up. You will 100%. Even if you do say no brownies on a Sunday, there's going to be a day where you fuck up. And when you do that, you have to acknowledge it. One of the things I find helpful is I have my goals for the year, which I never really hit, because I believe in like over setting the bar. And just having a notice underneath it says, are my actions today helping or hurting these goals?
Brilliant.
And and asking yourself that. And look, there's quite. I've used that to good effect. But then there's other times where I've been like, no, they're hurting it, and you know what? I don't fucking care, because I want to go out and get smashed. And there's going to be times where you do that, and when you have the blowouts or whatever, and you're going to do it. But
everything in moderation, including moderation. Sometimes you do just have to have a blowout. And James Clear talks about that whole thing of, he has a rule where it's like, you can't miss more than twice. So a lot of people will go, right, I'm going to stick to this rigid diet plan, and then they'll slip up. And as soon as they slip up, they just go, fuck it, I've not stuck to it. And then they just, the plug's pulled and they just go on a binge. Whereas he's like, you can only miss twice. So yeah, maybe you slip up, but don't slip up again.
Yeah, I love that, mate. Where can people find you online and get in touch with you, mate, and just be part of your life now?
Literally everything is The Magic Marine, but Instagram's my main sort of platform that I use.
Nice one, mate. Well, hopefully I'll be able to catch up with you in person next year, mate. But it's good catching up, bro. I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, great to chat to you, and let's hopefully meet up next time.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. Royal British Legion, thank you for making it happen. James, thanks for coming on, mate. We've got a lot more to talk about. On the next one, I've got a lot of book recommendations for you as well. In fact, guys, while we're on the subject of book recommendations, if you want to go to VSON Podcast/books, it's not a store or a shop. I've just put basically a list of books on there with links from podcast guests. I do need to update it, but there's a lot of them are on there. We have a lot of guests on who have books, basically, and I thought it'd just be a good idea to have them all in one place. Also, on the subject of books, if you ever want to square your mate Gez Jones away, then just go to my Amazon page, Geraint Jones, and you'll find all my books on there, or there's a link in the show notes. Please check out James on social media. I've got links to all his social media accounts, website, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, right now, in the middle of this pandemic, there ain't no weddings and stuff going on, really. Or there might be, but small ones. But this is the man to get. If you've got weddings or shows or anything like that going on, this is the man to get there. To be honest, I would hire him just to have his essence, human form in the same room as me. So check him out on social media, guys. And yeah, thanks again, Royal British Legion, for making the day happen. Really, really, really appreciate it. There is no podcast without Royal British Legion, guys. So please, if you want to say thank you to them, go along and check out their social media, give them a follow, and tell your mates about them. Tell your mates about what the British Legion do, because you never know when you might need them. Hopefully never, but you never know. This is the real world, isn't it? And one last thing to ask, guys, if you did enjoy today's podcast, please tell a friend, make a post, and spread the word. I think it's fair enough. If you enjoyed the podcast, spread the word. All right. I'll catch you next time. I love you, bye.
You told me not to worry, and you wouldn't break my heart. You told me you were sorry, yeah, my whole world fell apart. You said it's not my fault, and yeah, I've never done you wrong. I'm grinding to a halt, now I can see you're moving on. I promised I'd get better, and I told you things would change. You keep me to the gutter, yeah, I'll never be the same. I've got to let you go, now live your life and spread your wings. And yeah, you put on quite a show, and pulled the puppet strings. And are you sure that you don't want me? Remember all the pain, or maybe maybe you should thank me. It's your loss and my gain. I'm leaving now forever, I won't hang my head in shame. But yeah, you've taken me for granted, and you should feel ashamed. You sold a dream to all of us, a dream that we'd all die for, a reason for us all to live and something we could fight for. I might just help a man up to his feet or hold a newborn, but no matter what I do, my hands remembering my rifle, yeah.
Life's hard, I know that, still wouldn't change shit. I wouldn't go back, yeah, I wouldn't go back. Feelings I hold back, memories fade, yeah, they go fast, yeah, they go fast. Good times that come and go, survive the highs and lows, just take it step by step, I guess, yeah, I suppose. Good times that come and go, survive the highs and lows, just take it step by step, I guess, yeah.